Welcome to TIMFD. Today is my favorite day with your hosts, David Towner and Sam McEwen. If this podcast does speak to you, please like, share, and comment. Let your friends know all about us. And now, here's your hosts, Dave and Sam. Well, Dave, we're back.
Yes, we are.
We're in for another session here of Today is My Favorite Day.
Yes, it is.
And I would like for us to get in over the course of the next couple weeks, your 6 truths that you wrote about in Today is My Favorite Day. The first one being, I am breathing.
Yeah.
And it's there's some really interesting stories, some you've told, and I'll tell you the one that, the forced exhale story. I think that a lot of us who played any type of sports or actually had brothers or sisters who ran headlong into us, we could relate to. So what's the forced breathing story?
All right, so basically I played football in high school. I was a horrible football player. I'm a track guy, and it came from a large school. That school had 4,000 students in it, and they did cuts to get on the team, the varsity team. And I think the only reason why they kept me is I was fast, and they were hoping that they could use that track speed for football, which never really worked out. I didn't like getting hit. I didn't like hitting people. I could catch, but if you don't like getting hit and you don't like hitting people, you're probably in the wrong sport as far as football goes. Right. But I returned punts and kickoffs and that kind of thing. I actually played behind a guy named Ken Caminetti. Ken ended up being the most valuable player in all of baseball in the major leagues one year. He was a great athlete, and he was a sophomore, and I was a senior, and I had no problems being behind him because he was just phenomenal. But we were in a practice, and football season had kind of begun. Not kind of, it did begin, and we were coming up on our first game, and they were doing a drill. I think they called it Oklahoma's, if I remember right, but basically what they had is 2 cones. And the 2 cones were set up strategically where you couldn't get through it without hitting somebody. And so they put the linemen and the linebackers on one side, and I know you were a lineman at one time, and the wide receivers and the running backs on the other side. The quarterbacks just stayed away from this whole thing. Yeah. And so here we are. I'm on, getting ready. I'm in line. I'm watching these little guys just get crushed. All of our running backs and wide receivers are getting wiped out by these big guys. Well, I was not pretty quick. I was very quick, and I could move laterally pretty well. And so when they hand me the ball, instead of running into the guy on the other side, I just kind of scooted, did a little move, and got by him. And everybody just went, oh, woo, that kind of thing. And I walked back a little cocky, and the coaches go, that's not the drill. The drill is to learn how to hit people and roll off of them. So they reduced the landscape, so I had to go at him. And the guy that I burned happened to be a 4-year starter at school, and he ended up then being a 4-year starter at UC Berkeley, which is a Division I, Pac at that time, Pac 8, I believe it was, team. So this guy was a stud. Yep. And he didn't like that I was kind of smiling coming back and taking the high fives. And so when they reduced that, and I realized the only way I could get through is to hit him, he had a huge smile on his face. He wanted to take me out, and I agreed. I understood. I just embarrassed him and was acting a little arrogant. So I went at him with my whopping 140-pound body at that time. And this guy was 240. I mean, he was not a small guy. And he got underneath me because, of course, I didn't want to hit. So he got underneath my pads, picked me straight up, and put his helmet right into my ribs and dropped straight down on it. And it just knocked. I mean, it's just, whoo! And I couldn't breathe. I was just trying to figure it out. And everybody laughed, of course. I was put to the hospital, had an emergency, and my spleen was bruised, and it was in a bad place.
Wow.
Well, what that did is it just reminded me how valuable breathing is, right? Yeah. And when I was in the hospital dealing with cancer, which is what drove me to write this book, as I'm sitting there, I started realizing maybe I should be thankful for every breath that I've been given, to remind myself of every breath. So I get up in the morning, I take a big breath in, exhale out, remind myself, Lord, thank you for every breath, giving me life. Thank you for every breath you've given me. You're my creator, my sustainer, and ruler of every breath.
Well, there's a lot to be said about breathing.
Oh, yeah.
And breathing exercises and being able to calm yourself, calm your heart, calm your spirit by just slowing life down, taking deep breaths. I can relate in several different ways. I can literally know how to lower my blood pressure
Yep.
by going to a happy place, and we'll get to that, and breathing,
Yep.
and it works.
Yep.
But one of the things I think we all too often ignore is that we need to take that breath to slow down and to enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, is enjoying each moment we've been given. I'm a moments guy. I love when my grandsons or my wife or my daughters give me moments with them rather than gifts. I'm not really big on gifts, but that moment of enjoying it, because it gets, life's short.
Yes.
It could be gone in an instant, and cancer really showed me that. And so the importance for me is those moments, is getting in that quiet place. And for me, there's two different places, because a lot of us get stressed out and we don't enjoy the moments, right?
Right.
We run around 100 miles an hour. And so today what we'd like to do is just to remind you, just as we remind ourselves, to slow it down and enjoy the time we've been given. Now, you may be like myself and Sam, we're type A's, run 100 miles an hour, and we understand that, and that's a danger. It's also makes who we are. But what I have to do in my office, first of all, I have a place in my home office. It's a big lazy boy. I sit there, I read my Bible, I pray. That's a quiet place. Another one is going out in the water. I'm a big paddleboarder, love paddleboarding. I surfed when I was younger. So getting out in the lake, getting out in the ocean, and just being quiet. But also in my own office at the church, there are times where I'm just feeling, I'm running 100 miles an hour, and I go, I got to stop here. And if it's a lot of meetings or writing or whatever, I'll go, and there's a little wall between this couch that I have in the office and these two chairs, and I get against the wall and sit down and take one verse and just meditate on that verse. So the verse of this book is Psalm 118:24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. A lot of times I sit down, slow down to just focus on that. And I also have weights in my office. Literally, we have this Bowflex thing that is like, I could turn it and go from 5 pounds to 55 pounds on these dumbbells. And I use those as well to just get myself focused off of the problems, the issues, the people, and focused back on the Lord and taking care of myself and slowing things down.
Yeah, and that is so important throughout the day, to be able to step back away from what you're doing. And you're right, type A personalities, you got 14 projects going on, you got a to-do list going on, you've got this, and then you have honeydews that are on top of that.
Yes, of
we
course.
both know that. So,
yes, we do.
And those usually are priority A's. So, but you had several realities that you talked around breathing about about God, the realities of God.
Yeah.
Can you
Well,
address
yeah,
those?
of course. I mean, one reality is that He created every little cell in our body,
Right,
everything
right.
that we are, and He has basically given me that life, and I need to take advantage of that life. Another reality is that He sustains every cell in my body.
Yeah.
Every cell. He brought me in this world, as one very famous comedian said, He brought you in this world, He could take you out,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And so I always thank Him for creating me, creating every part of me, and also sustaining my life, getting me past cancer. He could have decided, I'm going to take you now.
Right.
And that would have been perfectly fine. I'm going to be in a wonderful place, heaven. But He decided to keep me around for a little longer, and I thank Him for this sustaining my life. And then He's in charge of it. So He, like I said, when He wants to take me is when He takes me. So I enjoy the moments I have now, because I'll have the moments in heaven that are going to be perfect. I need to enjoy now and really hang out with people, love people,
Right,
and be able to tell them the good news of Jesus Christ, obviously.
Right, and that's our end goal on our job.
Yes, it
right?
is.
You have a quote in here that I really, really like. I'm gonna read it.
Okay.
It says, "As we get older, we sometimes lose a sense of certainty about God's ingenuity."
Yeah.
He really thinks outside the box.
Yeah, He does. and He'll use us. And by the way, He will use every hurt. And we bring this up a lot in this podcast. He uses every hurt for His glory, every pain for His glory. And He never wastes any of those.
Right.
And I think that the cancer I went through has helped me help others through dealing with cancer, or even just difficult times. Right now, I didn't even think about this, but right at this moment, when we're doing this podcast, the Ukraine has been invaded by Russia. That's a big deal to a lot of people, but I want you to address that and what your wife's doing right now as she's having to deal with it. So I mean, it's real important.
So my wife is actually from the area that Russia claims as sovereign territory
Right.
the Donetsk, Luhansk area. I just don't have that accent to be able to
get
say
it, I
that
get it.
properly.
She
right?
does, but you
she
don't.
does,
Yeah.
but I don't. And she's a dental hygienist. And so in order for her to make it through the day, because we don't know where...
Today, right
today,
now.
Right today. We don't know where her sister is with our youngest niece. And we don't know where two of our nieces are. We know that one fled Kiev, and but we don't know where they ended up.
Right.
And we don't know whose country's passport they're actually looking for.
Right.
So in order for my wife Rita to get through the day, she prays.
Right.
And she prays over her patients.
Yes.
She prays over her office.
Yes.
She's constantly in prayer. And she's normally in prayer anyway when it comes to her patients for a couple of reasons. One, behave in the chair, don't bite me. And,
Yes,
of
course.
And then to bless her patients. So yeah, it's been a struggle. And before she went to work this morning, we prayed. There's tears.
Yes.
There's fear.
Yes.
And to deal with that, I know she has a couple telephone calls scheduled this evening.
Yes.
And so,
Well,
that's how she gets through.
And that's what I wanted to kind of give that and have you give that story and what's going on right now. I mean, this is happening
today.
at this moment.
Yes.
So what I wanted to do is bring that up because when I was going through cancer, the only way I got through it is to slow down, breathe, and then start praying for other people. So I
Right.
prayed for doctors, nurses, the technicians that came in, other patients. When I finally got to get up, they didn't let me out of my bed for like 17 days. So, but when I finally was able to get up, I could go to rooms and start praying for people. And what it did is it helped me to not focus so much on my issue, but think about where other people are at, and it gave me peace.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving,
Right.
bring your requests to God, and the peace of God that transcends all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Philippians 4, 6, and 7. It's so important. Rita's doing that right now.
Yes.
And I did that with cancer back then. And so to aim at you who's watching this podcast, if you're going through some crazy thing, it's a loss of a person you know, or a war that's going on, or cancer they're dealing with, or job situation, may I suggest to you, slow down, get to a quiet place, and if you can't, just start praying for people. Praying for different people, even if you're going as someone who maybe hurt you, to go through and pray for that. Here's Rita. She can't go to a quietness at that place because she's working. She's trying to get through. So her thing is, hey, when I'm working on these people, why not pray for them instead of thinking about all the stuff? She's got to think about enough of it as it is when she's done in work. But at least she can get through the day by praying. And to me, that shows a woman of faith. And it shows I'm not doing this on my own. I'm relying on the Lord. And that's where today is my favorite day, where it lands, is that every day is a gift from God. Every breath is a gift from God. And when I get that in my head, I can start gazing at God instead of gazing at the problems and really freaking out. Right. So
and that's where she's at today in gazing at God. And it has, we've been through this before.
Yep. Yeah.
In 2014. And so we're confident that she's safe. Leanna is safe, and that Eva is safe, and Masha. But you always have.
Oh gosh, yes.
You always have that.
It's
in
a
the back
war.
of your mind. It's a war. Exactly.
That's
tough.
So,
and my wife. She gets up every morning 5:30 ish, and is usually in prayer. She's got her own little place. She goes in prayer. That's her time in the morning and stuff like that. I have a chair downstairs. And so, but go into that quiet place so that you can focus on God and dwell in His presence.
Correct.
And get that peace. And praying for other people. Folks, I can't tell you how much, I have a tendency to wake up between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And so.
Type A, what do you expect?
Yeah. And the only way I can get back to sleep so that I am rested in the morning. And here's the thing, if you do that and you're up the rest of the night, God promised you rest.
Yes.
And so you go to prayer at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. You go to prayer, and the first thing I pray is, God, I'll pray as long as you keep giving me people to pray about, but you promised me rest.
That's right.
And what happens when you do that, you could pray the rest of the morning until it's time to get up, but you will be rested.
Yeah.
He has been faithful in that. I had a good friend who mentored us for a little while in Cheyenne, and Dale told me that, his wife told me that, and since I've been doing that, I don't get tired if I'm up praying all night. And so praying for other people just brings a whole different light on things.
Yeah, in reality too, with the whole idea of that God sustains everything, a lot of times what happens with type A's, they have a tendency to be called CFFs. We call them CFFs, which is control freak friends. That came from my wife out of Celebrate Recovery. And because we have a lot of type A's in that Celebrate Recovery, a lot of corporate people and that kind of thing, and they're just used to running 100 miles an hour. There's no way we could find peace when we're trying to control it all.
Right.
And so a control freak friend is somebody that just finally realizes, I'm a control freak. I don't believe that God is the sustainer of everything.
Right.
I don't believe that he's in control of everything. I don't believe he's sovereign, and I don't believe that he's a ruler of everything. I am. When we finally get to a place of realizing that, no, he is sovereign, he is in control, he will sustain you, he has created you.
Right.
We get to that place, a control freak friend is one that could smile and go, you know what? God is God, you're God, I'm not, and I'm okay with that.
Yes.
And when we get there, that's when I think we could pray for other people.
Right.
We can love on other people. I think that we can protect ourselves by not trying to run 100 miles an hour.
Right.
And we basically say, okay, Lord, you're in charge. You're my creator, sustainer, ruler. You give me a breath, I'm going to slow down and give this over to you.
You know, and if we can practice getting to that place of peace by taking a breath, slowing down, there's beauty all around us.
There is.
There's so much peace and joy and love around us. And when we slow down, we can see it.
Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing out of this is today's my favorite day. God has given me life. He's given me a breath. And I know who that God is, that he's my creator, my sustainer, and my ruler. And no matter what I'm going through, if it's health issues, if it's a war,
right.
if it's job issues, if financial, whatever, when I say that statement, I believe in the character of God. I'm believing that he's in charge of it, and I take it out of my hands, and there's where the peace comes from.
Right.
I'm not saying it always happens every time that I'm going to have perfect peace, even though he says it, because usually I'm getting in the way. He'll give perfect peace.
Right.
It's just I get in the way of it, and when I get in the way of it, I'm not going to experience peace. When I do just give that over to him and truly believe and say, Lord, I'm giving this to you, there is peace no matter what you're going through, whatever I'm going through. So a lot of people who are dealing with this war issue that's going on or health issues or whatever, let's just slow it down. Let's just give it over to the Lord. Today is my favorite day. You give me a breath. I literally breathe in, breathe out. You're my creator, sustainer, ruler. Gets me in a good place.
Yep, and God is in charge.
Yes, he is.
We always have to remember he's in charge. Well, this has been another episode of Today is My Favorite Day. Yes, we've enjoyed being here. If you don't have the book, there will be a link in the show notes for you to jump onto David's site and get that. There's also a link in the show notes to get a hold of me if you have any questions. But if you do have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And if you like what we have to say, you're enjoying these podcasts, please like and share the podcast, like and share the YouTube videos. Let us know what you think. And, well, we think we're right, but you may not think we're right and you want to have a discussion. We will have an honest discussion with you. But I can tell you each and every day that today is my favorite day. So thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Have a great one.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD. Today is my favorite day. The views, comments, and opinions expressed here today are those of the hosts and guests alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD, Today is My Favorite Day, is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Music is composed and performed by Chuck Bach. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed, my friends.